Hey there, Knicks fans.
How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for a kind of a little emergency reaction video that I wish I didn't have to record, but we did get some news about OG Anunoby. Actually, about an hour ago. I'm recording this about 8:45, so maybe a little bit more than an hour ago. And I'm not on post game tonight for this Warriors game, so I definitely wanted to get something up and didn't want to wait much longer than that. So the news for anybody who may not have missed it, Woj reported on the NBA pregame show for, I guess, ESPN that OG Anunoby is likely going to be out for more than just tonight's Warriors game. And this is a concern because the elbow has flared up. I don't know. That's a medical terminology, but flared up is the term that Woj used. He said the Knicks are definitely concerned. Said they still don't know when Randall's coming back. And then I'm happy I waited to talk about this because Tom Thibodeau just had his press conference a little while ago and added a little flavor to this by saying that OG Anunoby is actually not with the team. They sent him home to New York to get an MRI, which came back clean. And so you could look at that a couple of different ways. And that he is likely going to be out versus Denver. Obviously, he is not going to play versus Denver. And I think at this point, there is a question as to, I mean, I don't want to say anything too overreactionary in terms of what is actually going to take place or not take place over the coming weeks, but it would not surprise me if this lasts longer than that. I think what we're dealing with at this point with OG Anunoby and the Knicks is that there is a set of competing priorities. And if you want to even go a step further, there's three different priorities. So let's call it a priority triangle, if you will. One priority, which I think is the thing that most fans, from what I could tell on social media, the brief couple of minutes I was looking at it before I came on here, most fans are concerned about is just the rest of the season, which is obviously what seed are the Knicks going to get? Literally like every game. Like, how are we going to win the Warriors game? How are we going to win the Nuggets game? Are we going to sweep the next four games after that? All four of which the Knicks will be favored in, regardless of whether Anunoby plays or not. And, is there still going to be any possibility of getting the 3 seed with Donovan Mitchell's injury issues with Cleveland going on right now? Can they secure something in the 4-5 spot? And obviously the biggest priority, can they stay in the top 6? That's one priority branch. The second priority branch, and I think I think I've upped to the priority branch just to 4, is like what's going to happen in the playoffs. And I think this is obviously where the Knicks start to get concerned, because this Knicks front office has invested a lot in this season in the trades that they have made. Probably more so with the Grimes trade than the OG trade, at least in terms of which trades are more focused on this season versus focused on seasons beyond that. But obviously the Knicks organization cares about doing well in the playoffs. Fred Katz came on my podcast, and I'm sure he said the same thing on his own podcast, and said in no uncertain terms, it doesn't matter how they lose in the first round. If they lose in the first round, the season will be seen as a failure, and there will be no silver linings, no nothing. Like, this team is built to get out of the first round, and with obvious reason. We see how good they are when they're healthy. They have depth. They have good coaching. They, like, all the things you could possibly want. Like, they're in this to maybe not win it this year, but they're in it to win a round at the very least, and ideally more than just a round. So there's that part of it. There's the third priority area, which is, I think, the thing that is maybe getting lost in the shuffle a little bit here, and why I would not be surprised if you did not see OG Anunoby for even past the Denver game. And that's because even though they made this trade this year, and even though they do care about this year, I would imagine internally the Knicks feel like, hey, yeah, sure, maybe we catch lightning in the bottle. Maybe injury luck in the playoffs helps us out, yada, yada, yada. and you never know what could happen. But I don't even think they believe internally that their contention window has opened yet. And I think the reporting surrounding their long-term plans makes it very clear that they don't believe that their full contention window has opened yet. And the fact that OG Anunoby, and this is going to relate to the final concern area, the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent, and they traded for an unrestricted free agent, and they are about to ink him to a new contract, I think only further confirms that this was a trade made with the bigger picture / long-term in mind. This is all to say that their number one priority, ahead of certainly the rest of this regular season, and yes, even ahead of what they do in the playoffs, is and should be getting this guy right for the long term and making sure that this is not an injury that is screwed around with in any way, shape, or form. Now, is this an injury that they should have known about when they traded for him? Did they know about it? Did they know about it and they just didn't care? For me, those are all less interesting questions than the simple yes or no of, is this something that is going to be a long-term issue? Or is this something that can get dealt with now, ideally before the playoffs, but certainly before next season? That's the main question, because again, if their contention window has not even really opened yet, then I have to think, and reasonable minds may differ on this, but I have to think that they make this trade anyway, because if you don't make the trade, then you're looking at trying to get OG Anunoby this summer, which I'm not even going to get into that because it would have been a whole host of complications that, again, they don't need to worry about anymore because they have him. All that being said, this may have been unexpected news, but it's all the more reason to take care of this the right way now and make sure that this is not anything that lingers. This cannot linger after the season. That would be maybe not disaster, but like, because you could always manage injuries and injuries happen when players get older and yada, yada, yada. But it would be bad. At this point, I would imagine the Knicks, again, my guess, internally would sign off on the dotted line for whatever happens this season, but starting next year, he at least, whatever this thing is that's going on is not a lingering thing. And then the last decision or area or concern area is that of OG Anunoby himself, who I'm sure is playing a rather large role in all of this. And this is not just the team deciding stuff or Tibbs deciding stuff, because it's OG Anunoby that has some, I forget what his max is, but like, $200 million or $180 million or whatever it is on the line, that if he screws around with this thing and doesn't make sure it's 100%. And in that sense, like, yes, those are OG's interests at play, but they are also the Knicks' interests at play, because as much as OG Anunoby doesn't want to screw around and make this thing worse or make this thing a long-term concern, the Knicks don't want to screw around and make this thing worse or make this thing a long-term concern, because then they will have used their biggest trade chip, Emmanuel Quickley. And if you want to throw RJ Barrett into that mix, because he's played, quite frankly, excellent in Toronto, sure. But whatever, that was their package. They still have all the picks, but in terms of the players angle, like, that was their package. RJ was the salary, Quickley was the carrot, and they went out and they got the guy that they needed and that they always wanted, the one guy. So nobody wants this to linger. Am I concerned? Like, yeah, it's annoying for sure. It's an elbow, which is, kind of important. It's a shooting elbow, which makes it even more important. Like, I would just at this point rather them do whatever they can to make sure that this is, to the extent that they could do this, not an issue that lingers. And however that impacts this season, it impacts the season. Frankly, if OG Anunoby didn't play another game in this regular season, and to be very clear, I'm not predicting that. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Knicks could still have enough to at least get in the playoffs as a top 6 seed. And if they do that, then you know what? Let the chips fall there where they may. Because they'll probably be facing Cleveland, I would guess, in the first round. Although at this point they could be facing Orlando in the first round, So, and Cleveland, like, again, they have the whole Donovan Mitchell situation to deal with. So that's my take. If you want me to sit here and make a prediction on like how long he's out, I would guess he'll miss some games immediately after the Denver game. I don't think it'll be the rest of the regular season. So I don't know, split the baby. Maybe he misses 3 more, 4 more, 5 more, somewhere around there. Like, they should be able to beat those teams right after the road trip is over without Anunoby. The Randall part of it obviously also comes into play. There's a cross section of this Venn diagram where Randall's return certainly would impact how urgent they need to be with Anunoby. Although, again, those are, I think, secondary priority for them. And I still think they're going to make it to the 4-5, probably the 5. But I still think that they have enough, and they have built themselves up enough of a cushion. And I know there was news today that Joel Embiid is back doing some stuff. He's making some progress, but I don't think Sixers are going to see Embiid anytime soon. Knicks hold the tiebreaker against them. They're playing right now against the Heat. The Heat are 3 games back. Knicks hold the tiebreaker against the Heat. And, that leaves the Pacers, which have not exactly been playing the best ball. Pacers do own the tiebreaker against the Knicks. So if there's a team that you worry about coming up and catching them in the 4-5, I think it's Indiana. But, we'll see. That's it. I don't really have much to offer. I guess my overarching sentiment would probably be to like, I'm not telling anybody not to be concerned. It's okay to be concerned. I'm concerned. But I do think that when you look at the host of possibilities when an injury like this can occur, yeah, of course, you'd rather it occur in a season that has no ramifications in terms of like playoff ramifications. But like, imagine if we were sitting here next year and the Knicks over this summer had made 1 or 2 trades or whatever and got themselves and squarely opened that window of contention. And this happened then. Imagine how we'd be feeling then. So, I don't know if like it could be worse is all that comforting, but it could be worse.